Hey guys, today we're going to learn how to find slope from 2 points. So hopefully you've labeled your notes. And then the first thing we're going to start out with is the formula, and then we'll back up and we'll talk about how to use that formula. So your formula is y2 minus y1. And we're going to write that fraction line. So over x2 minus x1. Okay, so now that we have the formula, let's talk about points. So in these types of problems, you're going to be given 2 points on a graph. And they're going to look something like parentheses, 2, 5, and then we'll get a comma in between, so that's our first point. We could even label that our first set, or our first point, and then we'll have something like -4, 8, close parentheses. And here is our second set, or our second point. And within those sets, we know that when we have a point, our first number is x. So we're going to consider 2 our x1. And our 5 is our y1. So 2 is the first number that's x. And 5 is the first number that's y, or our y1. From there, let's take a look at our second point, or our second set. Again, our first number is x, but because this is our second set, or second point, we're going to label it x2, comma, and then our 8 is y2. Knowing what number is what is super important so that you can properly put them in your formula. Okay, so using these numbers, we're going to build our first example. Let's go ahead and label it example 1. And then off to the side, we're going to create some steps for ourselves while we're putting our numbers into our formula. Okay, so our first step is we are going to transfer our numbers into our formula. All right, so again, our formula is the top of our formula is y2 minus y1. Well, I've already labeled them. My y at my second point is 8. So I'm going to start with 8. So I have my y2. In the middle of my formula, I have a minus. So I'm going to write minus. And then minus y1. My y1 is 5. 8 minus 5. And then I have my fraction line. So I'm going to go ahead and write my fraction line. And then the second part of that formula is x2. x2 is -4. And then minus x1. So my x1 was 2, so minus 2. Our step 2. Now that we've built our formula, we're going to subtract the y values in the numerator. So go to my formula, 8 minus 5. Hopefully you guys have your calculators. I know they're small numbers, but we are going to deal with some bigger numbers and some negatives. So there is no shame in that calculator game. I know you guys can do that in your head. I like to check it just to be sure. 8 minus 5 is 3. So when I subtracted my y values, I have a 3. I still have that fraction line. And now our third step is we are going to subtract the x values in the denominator So in the denominator, I had -4 minus 2. Again, I'm going to pull my calculator out. -4 minus 2. And I'm writing it the same way it's written in your notes, equals -6. Our last step, we have a fraction, so we need to simplify. Some of your fractions might simplify, some of them might not. It's always good to double check. And remember, steps to simplify, this should be a review. You should be entering in your calculator your numerator, the ABC button, and the denominator. So let's see how that plays out in my calculator. So I had 3 ABC -6 equals, ooh, syntax error. Here's why we got a syntax error, guys. We put our negative in the denominator. That's okay. We want to put it at the beginning of your fraction because that negative counts as, it should just be in the beginning. So let's try that again. -3 ABC 6 equals -1/2. So our slope simplified was -1/2, or m equals -1/2. Let's take a look at another example. Example 2. All right, so again, we are going to give you 2 points. Here, I have -4, 8, and my second point is 10, 8. It's super helpful for me in the beginning when I label them before I put them in the formula. So go ahead and do that, guys. Again, I have x1, y1, x2, y2. Perfect. Now that I have it labeled, let's start putting it in our formula. That was our step 1. So I have 8 minus 8 over, because that was my y2 minus y1. Now I have over x2 minus x1. So 10 minus -4. All right, let's pop this in our calculator. I'm going to pull it over. 8 minus 8 is 0. So I've subtracted my y values. Next step, we're going to subtract our x values. So 10 minus -4 equals 14. And again, our last step is to simplify. So I'm going to just pop that in my calculator really quickly. 0 ABC 14 equals 0. So our slope, or our m, equals 0. And it is possible to have a 0 slope. All right, let's look at another example. What if we have the points 7, 5 and 7, 1? Again, let's go ahead and label these. So I have my x1, y1, x2, y2. Always helpful to label. All right, step 1, transfer numbers into formula. Well, my y2 is 1. My y1 is 5 over my x2 is 7 minus my x2 is 1. All right, so step 2, subtract our y values. I'll grab my calculator real quick. 1 minus 5 equals -4. It's my numerator. Well, let's do our bottom. 7 minus 7 equals 0. Last step, go ahead and simplify. So I have -4 divided by 0. You're going to get in your calculator, hopefully, the same error screen that I got, divide by 0 error. When you see something like that, your answer is m equals no slope. All right, so you have 3 examples. Make sure, guys, every problem you do, you label, whether you have where your x1, y1 is, your x2, y2 is, then follow these steps, transferring it into the formula and simplifying at the end. Hopefully, now that you have some notes, go ahead and check your grid and go ahead and complete the finding slope from 2 points assignment.